All right, so today we are diving into some research. And, well, I got to say, this one is a real head scratcher. You know how much I love those. It's got politics, animal behavior, and, well, I can't make this up. The results were shocking, to say the least. So get this, the title of this paper is, and I'm going to read the whole thing 'cause it's just that wild. The lethal impact of repeated exposure to isolated Donald Trump's 2024 debate performance against Kamala Harris on feeding and survival of laboratory mice. I know, right? A mice dying from a political debate. It sounds like some kind of crazy sci-fi movie, but I promise you this is real deal science. And, well, we just had to deep dive into this. So before we get into the actual experiment itself, I think it's worth talking about mice and research just for a second. What's so interesting here is that mice, even though they're so tiny, they're actually super valuable for understanding stress.
Yeah, they really are.
And they're more similar to us than you might think.
Mm-hmm.
So they have this thing called the HPA axis, which is basically like our body's built-in stress alarm system, right? So you experience something stressful, boom, the HPA axis kicks in, it releases all these hormones, and those hormones go on to impact everything from like your behavior to how your organs are functioning.
Yeah.
And get this, we have the same system.
Exactly,
Okay,
yeah.
so it all kind of makes sense
Okay.
now, right? By studying these little guys, we're actually getting clues about how like our own bodies and minds might react to stress too.
Absolutely.
Wow. So in this particular study, researchers wanted to see what would happen if these mice were exposed to Trump's debate performance for a really long time.
Yeah.
And to really zero in on his speech patterns, they actually took out all of Kamala Harris's responses. So they basically subjected these mice to like a nonstop loop of just Trump. For how long was it?
For 12 hours a day for 5 days.
12 hours. Oh, wow. I think I'd be reaching for the noise-canceling headphones after like an hour, to be honest.
Yeah, I hear you.
But the researchers were very thorough. They tracked everything, like what the mice were eating, how they were behaving, even their weight. And, well, let's just say the findings were pretty dramatic. The mice, in what they were calling the Trump group, they started eating and drinking way less, like significantly less. By day 4, their food intake had like plummeted to a measly 10% of what they would normally eat. And water intake wasn't much better. It was down to like 15%.
Yeah, those are some serious numbers.
They really are. But it gets even worse, right?
Tragically, yes. So out of the 20 mice in the Trump group, 17 of them actually died by the end of the study.
17 out of 20. Okay. I don't know about you, but I'm starting to feel a little uneasy.
Yeah, it's disturbing, to say
Yeah.
the least. And to make the contrast even more clear, they had a control group, and those mice were listening to Mozart's Eine kleine Nachtmusik for the same amount of time.
So the Mozart mice were basically living their best life.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
classical music, chill vibes,
They vibe.
healthy appetites, normal behavior, no casualties. Seems like Mozart is good for the soul and, well, mouse digestion, I guess. Okay, so that is quite the contrast. We've got mice literally dying, and then on the other hand, we've got like a tiny Mozart spa day happening.
Yeah.
But what does it all mean? Like, was it literally just the sound of his voice, or was there something else going on?
That's the question, isn't it? I mean, it's easy to just be like, well, Trump equals dead mice, but gotta like dig a little deeper here and figure out what is it about this situation that really stresses mice out.
Right.
And remember that HPA axis we were talking about?
Yeah,
Those loud, unpredictable noises. Those are known to really send it into overdrive.
they do.
So are you saying that like Trump's speaking style, which let's be honest, it can be pretty all over the place, could have actually messed with their stress levels that much? It's possible. I mean, think about it. The constant interruptions, the kind of aggressive tone, the just sheer unpredictability of it all. It's not exactly relaxing, is it? And remember, these mice were exposed to this for hours on end.
Okay. Yeah, no, that actually makes me think twice about like having the news on in the background all day.
Yep.
But okay, so like let's bring it back to us humans for a second. Should those of us who, you know, hear this kind of rhetoric pretty regularly, should we be worried?
Well, it's a good question, and a lot of people are probably wondering the same thing. But I think it's really important to remember here that this study focused on mice in a very controlled environment, right? So they were exposed to just the audio of Trump's speech and nothing else for a really long time, with like literally no way to escape. So it's not exactly the same thing as like, you know, catching a political debate on TV while you're making dinner.
True. Very true. So we're not all going to like drop dead from listening to one too many political speeches.
Not quite. But it does make you wonder about the power of language and how much we still don't really know about it. I mean, there's more and more research coming out all the time about how stress affects us, not just mentally, but physically too. And I think what this study suggests, even though it's, you know, kind of out there, is that those impacts of stress might actually extend beyond just us.
Wow. That is a thought-provoking idea. I
Yeah.
mean, we always hear about how, interconnected everything is, but this really takes it to a whole other level. It's not even just about politics anymore. It's about stress, communication, this weird link between human behavior and the animal world. It's wild. What do you think about all of this? I mean, does it make you see like those heated political debates a little differently? Because I know I do.
Yeah, it definitely makes you think. I'm already kind of feeling like that Mozart playlist isn't such a bad idea.
Right.
But in all seriousness, this study, even though it sounds super out there at first, it really does get you thinking.
It does.
What I find so interesting is how it really challenges us to think about stress differently, you know?
Okay.
We think of it as this like personal thing that we experience, but this study suggests that maybe it can be like transmitted in a way. These mice weren't experiencing the political debate like how they weren't forming opinions or choosing sides or
Yeah,
anything.
you're just kind of subjected to it.
Exactly. And yet
Mhm.
they were still so deeply affected by it. The emotional tone, the aggression, just the intensity of it all. It really speaks to this like deeper connection, the sensitivity to like energy around us that we don't even fully understand.
Yeah, it really makes you wonder what other subtle ways we're impacting each other, even the world around us, without even realizing it.
Right.
I mean, it's like this, it really puts things in perspective.
Yeah.
We like to think about ourselves as being separate from nature, like we're somehow above it all.
Mm-hmm.
But then these kinds of studies come along and they're like, nope, you are very much a part of this whole web of life. And what you do and what you say has these ripple effects that we can't even begin to understand.
It really does.
We started with this like almost funny headline about mice in a political debate, and here we are like contemplating the interconnectedness of like every.
That's the beauty of science, though, isn't it? It takes us down these like unexpected paths, and it forces us to really confront like what we think we know about the world. I mean, who would have thought that studying the effects of political rhetoric on mice would lead us to like these big questions about, stress, connection, our place in all of this?
Yeah, and it kind of makes you wonder if maybe we don't give enough credit to those weird, bizarre stories, those like out there research projects.
Mm-hmm.
Because sometimes those are the ones that lead to like the biggest breakthroughs and the most important discoveries.
Well, on that note, I think I might just go and put on some Mozart. I get my own HPA access a little break. This has been quite the deep dive. So thank you so much for sharing this research with us. It was definitely one for the books. And to everyone listening out there, we'll leave you with this. Next time you are feeling overwhelmed by all the noise, all the chaos, maybe just take a breath, put on some calming music, whatever does it for you. And hey, maybe even spare a thought for those mice, It's a strange world we live in, and it seems like we're all connected in ways that we're only just starting to understand.